This week's channel message from the angels acknowledges that we are currently straddling two different states of awareness, that we are at the same time trying to process and understand all of our past lives and experiences, that we are drawing in. This is a unique life in which we have access to all of those past lives. And we are at the same time trying very hard to live in the present and to have a coherent energy, to be coherent. And this message is acknowledging that and talking about the urgency, the importance of maintaining that present focus, because that is how we become the instigation of this shift in consciousness. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. And I really appreciate you being here. For those of you who are new, my name is Ann Tucker. I am a trance channel. By that, I mean I go into a deep trance state when I channel. And from that place, I raise my awareness up as high as I can go, and I go a little higher, and I connect with the angelic realm, and then their messages and information come and healing comes through, and I share it here with you guys on YouTube. And this week's message is part of a long series of messages about the current shift that we are going through, helping us and guiding us through this process so we understand at a deeper level what's happening to us and the role that we are playing. And so this week's message is really showing us that we are straddling between these two states of awareness. And they're trying to explain that there's been a shift in how we carry the energy of our higher self, that we are, rather than carrying it just as a point of light, that what they call our soul seat, it is now a complete embodiment, that we're able to hold all of our higher self. And when we are then able to project that full light out into the present moment, that energy then influences humanity and helps to wake everybody up. So, and they go through it in a really beautiful way, but they talk about this process for us. And there's some beautiful messages in here about not beating yourself up, not expecting it to be different from what it is, and that it's meant to be a gentle process. And they talk about how that can happen. So the message in the beginning, I will share the full message. And then at the end, we break it down paragraph by paragraph. So if you would like to have that deeper understanding and discussion, it's there for you. All right. I hope you enjoy the message. And I love how they start this. Beings of dawning earth, we surround you now. Heavens are available. The heaven-sent support that is required, that you have needed, is always here. We are present. There are many among us, many different beings, many types of frequencies, all of which are available to serve your needs in this time of focused energy. The change is among you, and those in between are rising to know themselves, to become more centered, to enter into the knowledge of their awareness. You are here purposefully holding the frequency of becoming, knowing that they are needing to find their way. You are here guiding, lighting a path. Central opening, inviting, a central soul such as yourselves, a central holy vessel for the light of the sacred, to envoy and gently encompass your brethren. To be that vessel, to be that light in the center of who you are, is to unfold your awareness in a very gentle manner. To let the self be in diagnosis and understanding of the reality that is before you now. In acceptance, harboring no grief or resentment, no energy against anything, no way or means of tiredness or fatigue. The separating forces before now did draw you into a focal point of energy formed within the belly. The central soul, the seed of self, emerged from there. The crux of this experience has been self-knowledge, and this has served you well. But in this experience forthcoming, your central soul does envelop the self and does empower you now to become the lighter being that you are, the more whole and elemental subject of this earthly revelation. To be wholly encountered in your soul self, to be wholly embodied with all of soul within self, is now the opportunity before you. This you are meeting with enjoyment, without rancor, without regret. The sense of all that is past is freedom for release, and to be the self that can stand tall and wait for nothing, who can be in the enjoyment of who you are while still in the awareness of those things which you are moving through, to, and beyond. To be in the state of conveyance of the soul. The awareness is dawning within you, the convergence of your experiences, and the turmoils they interject into your daily living, to be there and of this subject, while simultaneously blossoming into the awareness of your soul's central seat, homecoming into the self. To be at juxtaposition with nothing and nowhere within. To be allowing of this merging comprehension. To be this overlapping sense of living between two experiences of expression. The expulsion of those experiences, the guarding within of what is worth keeping, the then embroilment in the now moment, and the expectations lingering no more beyond this immediate concentration, tidying the soul and self into one. These two halves of soul and self, multifaceted for your enjoyment, for your comprehension, for your knowledge, and for your progression. These two are employed as one perspective for some time longer. But as you stay and realize the soul in self more full and complete, you offer these blessings outward. These then embroil the energies of those surrounding. And this then conveys to them the priceless knowledge of their own voyage and opportunity, and gives to them the suggestion that they may follow your light and be their own guidance further beyond their own knowing. There is among the everyone an embroiled experience of living beyond the now moment. The focal point changes and shifts, never lasting within the instant, but transforming in the comprehension to something that was a moment ago, and then lingering. The experience of living in the now is that of balancing between these halves and wholes of encounter and encountering yourself in the present, the now, the future, the past, a dancing, lifting, cavorting among these experiences. We wish to explain now that nothing of your being will transform your awareness beyond these experiences of self. Life on earth will contain always the hindrance of soul expressed in the now and the effect of your own knowledge gathering occurring from the future and the past. These you will employ in a continuing manner. But to see for the self what is unfolding, to stay present now to what is happening, the urgency of this comes from the experiencing of nothing you have known before. Thus, the import behind the change and the urgency of becoming one in unity in the now, and the drawing these in toward an expression of shadow and relief that can be discerned from the experience of living in the present. We say that the guard of the present is the awareness of what is passing beyond the curtain of your expectations. It is the knowledge of the self as expressed into the moment of now through the truth of what you are. Into the followership of those who have beheld you and who are willing to encounter the light. Here we find the spark of their own divinity ignited. And thus follows the repetition and the spread of awareness through humanity. We say to follow your own conveyance, your own form and fashion of moving through these times of purge and re-encountering who you are, while simultaneously enveloping the self and encountering the now without expecting it to conform to those prior realities, and allowing the self to learn in the now in a formless manner through the senses and sensory exploration. To be alert, to be alive to the knowingness of your soul seat, and to let this guide you home. All right. So I know there's a lot in there. It took me a while. The first time when I first channeled this message, I totally didn't get it. I had to sit with it and then leave and come back. That's always the case because I'm always not very mental when I do these. And then this morning I had to spend time with it. I was like, ooh, because there's some really good stuff in here. You're saying, Rebecca's saying the guard of the present. Yeah. And I go into that word too, is that word, of course, has layers, right? So, so let's break this down. That, like I said, the main message here that I think is something we really want to hold on to is this idea of, they talk about the urgency. Why is it urgent? Why do they keep talking to us? Eckhart Tolle is out there going like, live in the present, live in the now, live in the now. There's so many messages about this. And why is there urgency to that? And it's because being in that now moment, as we are channeling more and more of our divine light through us, that is how we spread that awareness through humanity, which then provides, right, that is what creates the shift. So it's in the now is where we do the work. So this is why it's so urgent. They're saying this is why it's so important that we bring as much of our higher self through, shine as much of that light as we can through the present moment, because that's how we then send that awareness out, that light out, and inspire that awakening throughout humanity. So that is a huge piece of this, but they're acknowledging that we can't live in the now all the time. They're saying that we are straddling between two experiences that are both extremely important. That we are straddling the experience of trying to be in the now and live in the flow and do all these things and and they're saying super important to see the now outside of the curtain, they call it, of our expectations. I love that, the curtain, because the curtain hides, right? Our expectations are a curtain that blinds us from seeing what is actually happening in the now. So when we live in the now, we bring our full selves, our current, present, full truth. And that is our maximum wattage, right? In terms of trying to convey as much of our light onto the planet. If we are living in the truth of who we really are, that is our full maximum wattage. Whereas when we are living in the past, when we're not really present, when we're thinking about what used to be, that wattage is dimmed. Our energy is dissipated between worrying about the future and living in the past and old ways that we used to be. It's like our energy becomes fettered. It's like all over the place, right? And when we are able to be really in the now, to be sharing our full truth, it's like that energy becomes coherent and focused. And we send our full maximum wattage, our truth, which is that divine spirit, or the divine light, our full self, comes through and is able to then impact humanity and help to create this shift that we're trying to go through. So this is the urgency of learning to do this. But like I said, they are acknowledging that we also are going through the process of trying to digest all of our past lives. So how do we then straddle this experience of trying to digest all of our past lives, which takes reflection, at the same time trying to live in the moment? So that is what we're trying to express here. So it's a very interesting acknowledgement of our current experience of being on Earth and helping us to understand what's really happening inside of us. So, and helping us to also understand some of these, what seem to be almost competitive messages, right? How do we do both? And they're saying, yep, yep, do both. So it's not easy. Okay, so let's break it down. They say they love the beginning. They're telling us, as they're about to tell us, hey, you're doing something hard. They're saying, we are here for you. In the beginning, they say beings of dawning earth, which I love. So it's like we're not anymore talking about something that's in the future. We are in the process of dawning. We are beings of dawning earth. We are here. We have made it to the ascension. We are in the process of the ascension. This is the dawning earth. So beings of dawning earth, that is you, right? We are the beings who are here during this process. We surround you now. Heavens are available. The heaven sent support that is required. So they're saying there's no messing around here. This is something we need. That you have needed is always here. We are present. There are many among us, many different beings. And I think that's a nod to the fact that there are volunteers here from all different places. And so the support that we have varies depending on where you're from, right? Who do you know? Who are your peeps? And they are here for you. So many different beings, many types of frequencies, all of which are available to serve your needs in this time of focused energy. And so here, right at the beginning, it's a nod to where they're going with this message in this time of focused energy. So what I was just saying about when we are not living in the present moment, when we are thinking about the past and the future and what just happened or who we used to be or all these things, our energy is not focused. It is diffuse. It is all over the place. We are parsing out our energy to all these different places. And so they're talking about focused energy that focused energy by living in the now is what allows us to bring through and embody more and more of our higher self, which is what we need to help create this awakening. So a nod to that right in the beginning, this time of focused energy, coherent energy, right? And you're saying, good news, we have support from our homelands. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. The change is among you. Again, like we're in it. And those in between are rising to know themselves. So by in between, I mean people who are open, like anybody who has had a whiff of opening, right? Who has even a momentary, oh, I wonder if this is all there is. Like those people in between are rising to know themselves. There's a ton of energy on the planet right now, helping to, supporting us, everyone in humanity to go through this change. So there's a lot of people who are in between, who are potentially receptive, I'd say, to become more centered, right? To enter into the knowledge of their awareness. And then they say, you are here purposefully holding the frequency of becoming. So this is huge. This is not the frequency of I've already done it, I'm here and I'm awesome. It is the frequency of this is how I did it, right? That is what we're trying to convey, the frequency of becoming. Because what people need is not to see an amazing person out there who's already done it, who's like, wow, look, they're so far beyond me. That's not what they need. What they need is to see the fact that you did it, you came, and you weren't this amazing when you got here. When you got here, you had all the karma, you had all the junk, you had all the difficulty, and you made your way. And that's the energy that we're holding. That's why we had to embody, right? We had to come in and have the human experience and go through it. Because even though you've cleared your junk, the memory or the echo of that is still in your field. And that people who resonate with that junk, even though it's not you anymore, even though you're not living that junk, they can find you because you still have it written in your field, right? There's still the fragrance of it. There's still the sense of it in there. So what we're trying to convey is that we are holding the frequency of becoming, of I have been where you are and I'm now somewhere better. So I am holding a pathway to get there. And that's what we're trying to convey to people so that they can be inspired, so they can find their own way, right? Knowing that they are, so you are here purposefully holding the frequency of becoming, knowing that they are needing to find their way. You are here guiding, lighting a path, central opening, inviting a central soul such as yourselves, a central holy vessel for the light of the sacred to envoy and gently encompass your brethren. So, and then this theme of encompassing is also really important. And they go back to that later here and explain how it's different. The way that we are holding our light is different now from what it used to be. And it is now about encompassing us entirely in that higher energy, in that full self, not just keeping it in our soul seat, which is like right down here, but keeping it, letting it just embody the whole, like totally cover us, like encompass us. Yeah. All right, to be that vessel, so they go on to say, great, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to help humanity. We're trying to bring about the awakening. They're saying to be that vessel, to be that light in the center of who you are is to unfold your awareness in a very gentle manner. And so this is the next theme that they're going to go into here, which is to say that this is not meant to be a struggle or a fight with yourself. This isn't meant to be something where you have to, combat your reality. It's meant to unfold. To hold that light is meant to be a gentle process, a loving process, right? To let the self be in diagnosis and understanding with the reality that is before you now. So like to be living through your life and seeing everything that comes up as a trigger that you're meant to learn something from. Like everything is here to serve you. So you encounter everything from a very gentle place of knowing that of recognizing this spiritual method of learning about yourself is to be present in the now, right? So this is to let the self be in diagnosis and understanding of the reality that is before you now. This is a gentle process. It doesn't have to be hard, right? In acceptance, harboring no grief or resentment, no energy against anything, no way or means of tiredness or fatigue. So in other words, they want us to be going through this process of undoing or understanding, taking apart all of our past lives, but done from a spiritual perspective, where we encounter our reality from this really grounded place of knowing that everything is for us. There's a lesson in everything. Everything we see is a reflection of something that we are holding. And so then we go into this with this understanding of openness to perceive ourselves. And this is done without no grief or resentment. We're never angry at ourselves or angry at other people. And if you have anger, not that we won't ever have anger, because sometimes anger is the emotion that you're trying to move through. But when it comes up, to recognize it as something that was in you, that anger was already there, and that you're just moving through it. You're allowing it to move through you. So it isn't a thing where you are then from that place creating new grief and new resentment, right? You're not feeling against, you're not in resistance to anything. No way or means of tiredness or fatigue. In other words, it doesn't have to be a feeling of struggle, like that. You don't have to fight this. You don't have to fight your way out. It is a process of trying to be in the present and work through these things, right? So they're saying it's meant to be gentle for you, and that we can let it be gentle. And that's available to us now. And they go on to say, next paragraph, they say, the separating forces before now did draw you into a focal point of energy formed within the belly. So this is like that third chakra, right? Formed within the belly. There's this is where our soul seat, the central soul, up until now has kind of come into this space here and been held here. And from here, it sort of emanated and did its thing. Like this is where we would sort of speak our truth, was from this place. So this is where our soul would sit up until now, right? And they say the central soul, the seat of self, emerged from there. And then they say the crux of this experience has been self-knowledge, and it has served you well. So this whole experience, this karmic experience, 3D reality up until now has been about this, about having the soul sit here in this place and navigate our karma, navigate the world as it showed us ourselves. They say now this is changing, but they say in this experience forthcoming, your central soul does envelop the self. So in other words, it's a much more whole body experience of the soul, that the soul, that our higher self is now like we're wrapped in it. It's everywhere. It's not just shining from this little place inside of us. We are in it. And this is what they keep talking about, the gravity, as we hold more and more and more of our higher selves, right? It does empower you now to become the lighter being that you are, the more whole and elemental subject of this earthly revelation. So in other words, that holding the full expression of your higher self, helping yourself to be enveloped in this light, it makes you the more whole, be whole because you're holding the whole self, and elemental subject of this earthly revelation. So in other words, that elemental is number one. It means that you're the sort of the primary, the first principle, that you are sort of the beginning, the very foundation of this change on the earth, right? And elemental is like the elements of the earth, right? It is like the wind and the air and all of that. So it refers to the fact of our sort of a divine being who is incarnated, right? And so you are in this way, by holding this energy, you are the beginning of this awakening on earth. It comes from within humanity because we are holding this higher light. We infect humanity with that light and inspire them to then go through their own awakening process, is what they're saying here. All right. There's a lot here, isn't it? All right. So, and you're saying, and Mike, great to see you. Thanks for joining. And Deshini said, then why is there so much emotional pain when we clear the difficult stuff? And that's a great question. And the key is to recognize the pain is there, but not to fear the pain. And those are two super important things. That the pain, if you just go headlong into that pain, you will clear it in like 90 seconds, is to not resist it and to recognize that when it's coming up, it's the pain that you're processing from something that was already there. Right? That there's some part of you that even if it's something that's happening in the now that feels painful, that's hurtful, recognize it's triggering a wound that was there before that resonates with that same frequency of pain. And so yeah, some of this clearing is very painful and will bring up a lot of emotion, but that emotion is what we are clearing. And so you can have the experience of the pain, just not to fear it. The fear is what creates the difficulty. And so just allow the pain. When you feel the pain, go, oh yeah, that hurts. Okay, go into it. Ugly cry. Like the more you can just go into it and feel it as hard as you can. And when you do that, it'll clear super fast. Just try to fill your whole body up with that pain. And don't be afraid. And it will move through you. Yeah. All right. To be wholly encountered in your soul self, to be wholly embodied with all of soul within self is now the opportunity before you. So this is what we're trying to do, is to move the soul from just being a tiny portion in the seat, right? The seat of our soul, to being a place where the whole body is filled with this higher expression of our soul. You are meeting with enjoyment, right? They're saying this does not have to be a difficult process. And yes, going through like feeling the 90 seconds of intense pain is not super fun, but it goes over quickly. And there is a certain kind of high that comes from it. Like it's not all bad. And then at the end, you will be shocked at how you can't find that pain anymore. And that is a wonderful feeling. So it's about not being in resistance to it. So that's what they're really trying to express, right? And it can be a gentle process where as you go further and further, as you work through more and more of these wounds, you'll get to a place where it's almost like just through the awareness, you can shift something. So it gets easier and easier, right? Without rancor, without regret. And go on to say, the sense of all that is past is freedom for release. So that's what they want it to be, is freedom. You're finding your freedom through this release. And to be the self that can stand tall and wait for nothing. So that is about the future, that we are very much in the present. We're not expecting the shoe to drop. We're not waiting for anything, that we're just very content with what is. And we're not wanting it to be something that it's not. And that is the place of freedom. And so from that place, we then move into the next now and the next now and the next now and let our lives unfold. And you're saying ugly cry, right? Scream. Absolutely. And sometimes you do need to vocalize, like especially if there's stuff in the throat chakra, screaming can be incredibly helpful. You can do just stick your tongue out and do like a ugly, like just let it out, And that can be, because sometimes energy needs a physical movement. Even sometimes if you really feel it, you can, give yourself a thump wherever you feel that pain and help it to just dislodge a little bit. It can be helpful, particularly for the really stubborn ones. It can help you really get in touch with it. You're saying accept the memory and let it go. Yeah. And Carrie's saying, I've recently found myself being upset with my higher self for the earlier pain, asking why did it need to be so painful and isolating. I had to forgive me for letting me suffer. That is awesome. It's so awesome how you came around to that, Carrie, that it is like sometimes we will be like, it's no fun, right? The earth experience can be really, really hard. And sometimes we can be angry about that. And so I think it's awesome that you realize that and then forgave your higher self. I think that's awesome. And Dashini says, well, if it gets really bad, I take my car to the highway and scream it all out so that I won't bother anyone. I've done that too. There's this one overpass. Those of you who are in the Seattle area, the overpass where the 520 west or east goes over the 405, right? You're super high up and nobody can see you. And that is like the perfect place to do your primal scream. So yeah, I totally know what you mean. That is so funny. So, okay. All right. So here we are. And I really like this part. They say, the sense of all that is past is freedom for release, and to be the self that can stand tall and wait for nothing, who can be in the enjoyment of who you are while still in the awareness of those things that you are moving through to and beyond. So it's really about trying to get to that place where you can be aware that you're moving through stuff, but also living in the present moment. So you're encountering your reality, seeing these things, seeing these triggers come up, these emotions come up, working through them. But so you're in awareness of them and you're aware that, okay, this is stuff I've got. This is stuff I'm pulling forward. Oh, I have memories coming forward. Okay. And then but at the same time, you're in the enjoyment of who you are. You're recognizing I'm growing through this, right? I'm living through this right now and processing it and finding my freedom. So to be in this state of conveyance of the soul. So it's an awareness that we are moving through right now, that we are not baked. We're not done. We are in the process of experiencing and living this right now in the present moment. So that's the idea of trying to hold this state of being that is in a state of change. And that's the trick. That's what we're trying to do. And then they go on to say, the awareness is dawning within you, the convergence of your experiences and the turmoils as they interject into your daily living, to be there. So it's acknowledging what we're just talking about, the awarenesses, right? The convergence of all those past experiences, the turmoils that they're interjecting. So if you're experiencing pain, right? To be there and of this subject, while simultaneously blossoming into the awarenesses of your soul's seat, central seat. So at the same time, trying to hold this awareness of your higher perspective, right? And homecoming into the self, right? To be at juxtaposition with nothing and nowhere within. So letting this stuff come up, not resisting it. Don't be in fear of it. That's the big thing. Don't fear your feelings as they're coming up. Don't be afraid of these past memories, to recognize that this is intentional and this is your chance to be free of them. So don't be afraid of them. Don't be afraid of the pain. Have the pain. Don't be afraid of the pain and just let it move through you. To be at juxtaposition with nothing and nowhere within, to be allowing of this merging comprehension. And this is the merging of all those past selves, all that past junk. It's a merging. You're merging all of this into the now. So this is a huge process of processing our whole 3D experience of being human is what we're trying to do right now. And it is a big undertaking, right? To be this overlapping sense of living between two experiences of expression. So in other words, we're trying to balance between living in the now and embodying our whole self while also incorporating all this past junk, right? So it's an overlapping experience, right? Two experiences of expression. And this is what we're trying to straddle right now. The expulsion of those experiences, the guarding within of what is worth keeping. So as you're going through this process, you are also gaining insights and gaining knowledge and gaining abilities. So there's great stuff in there for you. They're saying you're guarding what's keeping what's good. Then the then embroilment in the now moment, and the expectations lingering no more beyond this immediate concentration. So it's really about trying to bring it all into the now and staying in the present moment as you process it, right? I love this, tidying the soul and self into one. So this is a merging process that we're going through, trying to merge all. So the reason why we're straddling this is we're trying to bring all the past experiences we've ever had into the embodiment of our full higher self. So it is the tidying of the soul and the self into one. So that is what we're trying to do right now. And it's not easy, but we're built for it. Like, we were built to do this, and we don't have to think about it because you're just doing it already. It's just how much are we in resistance to it? How can it be easier? Can it be gentle by maintaining that spiritual perspective, right? Okay. So, and you're saying, it's the only way forward for me. Hope is all is good with you. Yes, finally got here. Hey, Mary, great to see you. So, all right, these two halves of soul and self, multifaceted for your enjoyment, for your comprehension, for your knowledge, and for your progression. These two are employed as one perspective for some time longer. So they're saying we're going to be having this earth experience, this experience of living through this two-part method of being embodied. That's going to keep going. They say, but as you stay and realize you're the soul in self, more full and complete, you offer these blessings outward. So this is the change, is that we embody more and more of that higher self. The soul is no longer limited to just the soul seat. We are enveloped in the soul, right? The soul is everywhere. The soul is big. It's filling us up entirely, right? You realize the soul in self, more full and complete. You offer these blessings outward. So the more light we hold, the more that is then projected outward. And that takes coherence of our energy. So we're not spending it in the future, spending it in the past, spending it with all of our other ideas. We're coherent. And we have that huge energy, and we spend that outward. We express it outward, right? And that then helps to trigger others to then awaken, right? So they say these then embroil the energies of those surrounding, right? So you're offering these blessings outward. These then embroil the energies of those surrounding. And this then conveys to them the priceless knowledge of their own voyage and opportunity. So it sparks something in them, right? And gives to them the suggestion that they may follow your light. So there's nothing about this that is forced. It's just like the angels work, where what the angels do is when we have our head down and we're stuck in our junk and we can't see opportunity and we can't see a way out, they breathe in just a little breath of hope. And that breath of hope is just enough for us to lift up our head and see, oh, wait, is there a pathway over there that I haven't thought about? And that's what you're doing, is you're not forcing anyone. This isn't a thing where we're out there trying to preach. It is a thing where it is a suggestion. Just by being, by shining your light, by sending that frequency out into the world, that is the suggestion that they may follow your light and then be their own guidance further beyond their own knowing. So it again reflects back to them, where they then follow their own internal, like their guides are working with them, it's their own higher self is working with them, but they need that inspiration. They need someone to wake them up. They need that light to come from you. All right, then they say, there is among the everyone that an embroiled experience of living beyond the now moment. The focal point changes and shifts, never lasting within an instant or within the instant, but transforming in the comprehension to something that was a moment ago and then lingering. So they're talking about that being human means that we will always have this. We will always have this thing where we are living in the now, but that in order to understand things, we have to process them not in the now. That our process of understanding, of learning, is a non-present thing. It is a thing where we are always a couple seconds behind or thinking about the future, right? So they're saying the focal point changes and shifts, never lasting within the instant, but transforming in the comprehension, right? Transforming as we think about it into something that was a moment ago and then lingering. So they're talking about our process of learning. And they're saying that this is true for everyone. They say the experience of living in the now is that of balancing between these halves and wholes of encounter and encountering yourself in the present, the now, the future, the past. A dancing, lifting, and cavorting among these experiences. So the saying living in the now doesn't mean that we have no reflection. It doesn't mean that we have no processing, that we don't then try to glean knowledge from what we're experiencing. It's balancing. It's a dance, right, between. So it means being aware of the present, but also allowing ourselves to use our gift of comprehension, which is making sense of the now. And that is a dancing, lifting, cavorting among the now, the past, the future, right? That we're moving between these, but always anchored in the now. So it's a balancing between these halves and wholes of encountering and encountering yourself. So when they say halves, it means like half of us is somewhere else. And the wholes are when we're fully in the present. So it's a balancing between that. And I think this is really important because it came up. Jonathan, one of the members of our community, who was an astrologer, asked me, he's like, well, okay, if we're going to be so living in the now all the time, like, what about astrology? Like, what about all the ways that we make sense of our world? What about, all the ways in which we diagnose and understand things? And what they're saying here is, yep, that still exists. That is still useful. We still do it. We still have that. But it's a balancing between these things. It's being aware of when we're doing it, how we're doing it, and anchoring it in the now. Yeah. They go on to say, we wish to explain now that nothing of your being will transform your awareness beyond these experiences of self. So in other words, we will still do that. So nothing in our experience is going to change that we will still have this way of processing. Life on earth will contain always the hindrance of soul expressed in the now and the effect of your own knowledge gathering occurring from the future and the past. And they call it a hindrance because it does separate and diffuse our energy. It does keep us from being that super coherent self, right? They say, these you will employ in a continuing manner. But then they go on to say, but to see for the self what is unfolding, to stay present now to what is happening. The urgency of this comes from the experiencing of nothing you have known before. So they're saying that as much as we then understand things by doing it that way, there is an urgency to learning to stay in the present moment because stuff is going to be happening that we have no frame of reference to comprehend. And if we're stuck trying to diagnose, if it's really like, think of it this way, that there is a way of living where we are guided by our past, where we use the past as a filter and we see through it and we look at everything through the filter of the past. And so the only things that can make it through the filter are the things that match the past. The other way of living is to live in the present moment and to see things occurring as they are and to have no filter. And then as things come through, we can then use our knowledge, compare them backwards to, oh, okay, did that happen before? What happened? How do I understand this based on my thinking and my logic and all these kinds of things. But it's anchored in the now, and it is open. It's not encountering things through a filter. And that's what we're trying to do, because we're going to be experiencing things we have no frame of reference to understand. And we literally will not see them if we are trying to see them through a filter of what used to be. And that's, I think, why this is so urgent. So they say, thus, the import behind the change and the urgency of becoming one in unity in the now and drawing these, meaning the soul and the self, in toward an experience of shadow and relief that can be discerned from the experience of living in the present. So they're saying this is the import of the change. This is why we got to do it, and the urgency of becoming one in unity in the now. So drawing the soul and the self into the present moment. This is why this is so important. Trying to find shadow and relief that can be discerned from the experience of living in the present. The reason why this is so important, they say, we say that the guard of the present is the awareness of what is passing beyond the curtain of your expectation. So the guard is to watch over with great care. So what we are looking for, what we want to be super attuned to, what we want to be on guard for, watching for, is what is passing beyond the curtain of our expectations. This is what we want to be focused on. And they say what it is the knowledge of the self as expressed into the moment of now through the truth of what you are. So it is that whole embodiment. So we've had this shift where we're now holding our whole, it's no longer the soul in a seat. The soul has encompassed us. And that full truth, we're trying to express that full truth into our reality. So this is what we're trying to now observe, is as this is reflected into our reality, we are now trying to see it, right? And so the thing that is beyond the curtain of our expectations is the knowledge of the self as expressed into the moment of now through the truth of what you are, the whole self. So we have to be aware and observing how we are different, what is different, because this is the journey we then have to communicate. So they say, it is the knowledge of the self as expressed into the moment of now through the truth of what you are. The truth of what you are is like your whole soul song is then vibrating out into the world, into the followership of those who have beheld you and who are willing to encounter the light. So these are the people who are becoming, who are open and receptive to help, hopefully moving into this awakening with us. They say, here we find the spark of their own divinity ignited, and thus follows the repetition and the spread of awareness throughout humanity. So this is how it's happening. This is how the awakening is happening. It's in those moments when we are able to be holding our full divinity, or as much light as we possibly can, in as much coherence as we possibly can, and letting it move through us and seeing out into the world the potential for change, to seeing our own becoming, to seeing how we did it. And that how we did it is the story of all the stuff we've been through, right? And seeing where we are now. And we're trying to project that out into the world and to see that play out in front of us, right? And it is seeing our reality shift. We have to be attuned and aware, not expecting it to show up the way it used to be, expect it to show up differently because we are different. And as that happens, as we pull back that curtain of expectations and let this amazing newness come to us, which we've earned because of all the processing we've been doing, then that coherent energy then impacts everybody else, right? How cool is that, right? Okay. So this last paragraph, I think, sums it up really, really beautifully. We say to follow your own conveyance, your own form and fashion of moving through these times of purge and re-encountering who you are, while simultaneously enveloping the self and encountering the now, without expecting it to conform to those prior realities. So in other words, we say to follow your own conveyance, your own form and fashion. So gently, do it gently. Don't be hard on yourself. Don't be critical of your process, right? To let it happen, just to be easing through this, right? To follow your own way of moving through these times of purge and re-encountering. So bringing forward all that stuff from the past and working through it, right? While simultaneously enveloping the self, right? Enveloping the self in your higher soul. So we're doing that at the same time. We're trying to bring in as much of our light as we possibly can. And we do that as we clear all this junk. We find our freedom. And that allows us to hold more of our higher self energy until we're totally enveloped in it, right? And we encounter the now without expecting it to conform to those prior realities because they are not relevant any longer. So we have to have the expectation that our reality is going to reflect this incredible divine light that we're becoming more and more able to hold, right? So, and allowing the self to learn in the now in a formless manner. So this is something that we're trying to come into, that our processing, as we're trying to process and learn, we're trying to learn in the now in a formless manner through the senses and sensory exploration. So it is trying to take in what's occurring, not through a filter of saying this has to pattern match something I used to know. Try to do it with your raw senses, and then to take what you glean and then compare it to what you used to know. But to let it come in is like, I don't know what this is, like tasting something for the first time and just letting it come in and then thinking afterwards, okay, what the heck was that? Right? How do I make sense of that? How do I compare it? How do I understand it? But to receive it as something you've never experienced before, because you are changing moment by moment, right? Then they say to be alert, to be alive to the knowingness of your soul seat and to let this guide you home. So we're allowing that soul seat to grow, right? Let it guide us to then holding more and more of our higher self. Yeah. All right. And you're saying, where is it? You're saying, and yes, I try to discern the future as a possible outcome. And you're saying, where is it? Sorry, what do we see? What do we do if we see the future regularly? That is awesome if you see the future regularly. And I think be open to understanding that timelines change and to hold that as a possibility. Because I have a similar situation where, as you guys know, I get a lot of messages about what's to come. And I think the key is to try to make space for that and to recognize that may be an occurrence, but to do your best to try to stay in the present moment. So that is the thing, they kind of call it a dance, right? Where we're dancing among the future and the past. So for some of you, the future is very real. And so that is part of the dance, but it is about trying to then be in the moment and to allow that future to come whenever it comes and to not be waiting. They reference that one time in the message, to not be waiting for anything. So don't wait for that future. So they talked about, like, we know a lot of these events that are on the horizon. Some of them have been happening regularly, like, all the time. The things that they've been talking about are happening. The most recent obvious one is the bank failures in the U.S. They warned us about it 2 years ago, right? And some of the issues with flooding and water contamination. I just got a message the other day from a lovely woman in Italy. It was telling me that they're having this problem in Italy right now where their water sources are getting contaminated because of flooding, and people are getting tetanus shots. I didn't know, by the way, that you could get a tetanus shot to help help prevent illness from. So I'm going to look into that because that might be a great idea. I don't know. But anyways, and I've totally lost my train of thought. So, and you say, so this is that idea of living in the future and living in the past, having the future and the past all in there, but trying very hard to stay in the present moment and not waiting for that future to come. The angels have told us to continue to invest in our lives as if the future will keep on, the present will keep on going, because it is the energy that will continue forward. So invest in your life. Don't wait for anything, right? So seeing the future as an old pattern. I don't know, like, I think as the future as a potential outcome and knowing it's out there in the same way that you know that someday you're going to have some important life events that are in your horizon. Like, if you're not married now, maybe someday you'll be married. If you don't have children, maybe someday you'll have children. Maybe someday you'll have grandchildren. And those are lovely things you can look forward to, but you don't wait for them, right? You invest in your life now. And I think that's the idea. Yeah. And you're saying, thankful for your work on deciphering this. When you read the whole thing, at first I thought, whoa, I'm glad to have answer interpretation. Thanks so much, Teresa. Yeah, I know there was a lot in this and I had to read it several times and took a lot of notes. And I think when we go through it, it becomes really clear, but it just takes time because these are just really unusual concepts for us. It's just not how we typically think. And so I think we have to spend time with it and let it sink in. But when it does, then it resonates as truth, right? I think, like, deep down, we all know this. It's just that it's not how we usually think. Yeah. And Donna's saying, this is spectacular guidance. Awesome, Don. This is all planners are going to have practice patience in this time. That is the truth. Yes, it is so true. And Mike says, for me, it is a projection of the memory. Okay, yeah, and off with the squirrel. It's so true. It's so true. Yeah, there is a lot of different themes, and I think it's especially hard when we're talking about angel messages because they process information really differently from how we do it. Is they, see 50 things at the same time, and they can juggle all 50, and they have no problem with that. Whereas we have one stream of consciousness, like one little thread, and so it can feel sometimes as we're trying to, as they're giving us a message, and it goes here and here and here and here. Like it can be a little hard sometimes for us to then bring it back to our one little line of consciousness so that we can make sense of it. So anyways, all right, you guys, super, super interesting message. I hope it's helpful. And I think the key is to be gentle, like I said, to be gentle with our own processing, to recognize what we're going through, to recognize that we are processing all these past lives, all these past experiences, and to just not be afraid of that processing, to let it move through you gently. And then to try our best to be as coherent as we can and try to experience what's coming with our senses, to let it be a sensory experience, the way you would experience a new food you've never tried before, right? You would be just open to it. You would just receive it and then try to understand it after the fact. And that's, I think, what we need to be doing. So, because we need to be willing to recognize that we are different. Therefore, the reality we're creating is very different. And we want to be able to see that difference. So we don't just keep ourselves locked in old patterns that don't make any sense anymore. So, all right, you guys, I hope that was helpful. Sending you tons of love. And I should tell you, by the way, if you are, I haven't mentioned it, I know, I do have the retreat in October. And I believe there is like one spot left in a group room. So if you are called to go, let me know. I think there's one spot. So jump on it if you want to go. It's there, and I would love to have you join us it's in October here in Seattle at Mosswood Hollow. Phenomenal retreat center. So if you want to go, it's there. I would love to see you. All right. Talk to you soon, you guys. Bye-bye.